Morning. Am I audible to you guys?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Okay, let me just share my screen first. Can you see the whiteboard? Okay, so array part, I guess everyone is clear. Do you have any confusion with array part? Remember array, just drawing again. Okay, so what happened in array? What is the array? What is an array? Answer.
An array is a collection of data of similar types.
Similar data types. Okay, good. So why we need to use array? What's the advantage?
Code optimization,
Hmm.
random access,
Yes.
ease of sorting, and ease of transversing.
Yes, all of them are correct. Okay, so those are the main advantages, but the main point why we need an array is because it helps you or allows you to store multiple values. Okay, so you can use it as a variable that can store multiple values. So it's like if you want to store like 100 integers, you don't need to uh, initialize or declare 100 variables for it, correct? So it will become very tedious. So you can just create an array with the size 100 to store 100 integers or 100 values, right? So what was the initialization process? How can you define an array? Declare. You just write data type, then your array name, then you write array size, right? Okay, so you can access the values from an array with the help of these indices. Okay, so your first element will be, maybe this is your array A0 will be your first element, for example 1. Okay, so in this way you can just declare values or put values inside your an array, or you can just do it in one go, like what? A define size, it's like 1 2 3 4, 1 2 3 4 and 5. So your value 1 2 3 4 and 5. Okay, so if you want to access any value from this array, you can just provide the array name and the index value. Okay, so index value means suppose you want to access A3, then it will return value 4. Okay, if you want to access value A 4, which is your last, that means it will return you 4. Okay, so if the array index will start from n and it will go to n, you can access the first element with a0 and you can access the last element with a n minus 1. Correct? These are the things we discussed yesterday and I hope everyone is clear. If you still have any confusion, you can ask. There was another valid process. You can directly just write, keep it blank and initialize the value 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Still, your compiler will know it because you have already provided the values as well. Okay, but if you want users to input the value, then you have to put a size there. You have to mention the size. Okay, if you are doing declaration with the initialization, then it's fine. Even if you don't write the size of the array, compiler will know because you have provided how many values are there. Okay. Any doubt in this part? Confusion থাকিলে সুধিবা, ভয় নকৰিবা আৰু লাজো নকৰিবা. Yes, no, anything?
Yes, ma'am, understood.
Okay, so then I'll go to the multidimensional array. Okay, so this is the array with the one dimension. This normal array is just your 1D array, right? The things we discussed yesterday or just now, this is your 1D array. Okay, now there can be multidimensional array. Okay, so in multidimensional array, I'll mainly discuss about two-dimensional array. Okay, so what is multidimensional array? Any guesses? Just now I already mentioned actually what is it. Multidimension means it will have more than one dimension, right? Your multidimensional arrays can be either 2D or 3D. Okay, so let's see what is 2D array first. Okay, so 2D array is also known as your array of arrays. Okay, you can say array of arrays. Okay, so 2D arrays are mainly used for matrix. I guess you guys already know about the matrix, right? What is a matrix? It is something like this. In maths, we got matrix, right? This is your matrix. So by matrix, Anna.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Good. So you can see in a matrix, you have a row values and you have columns, right? So same is applicable in your this as well. Okay. In case of two-dimensional array, we do not initialize the size. Okay, we just initialize or provide the row and column value in the initialization. So you can say you can initialize the value, maybe syntax will be same. You have to mention the data type, then your array name, here you are not going to provide the size like your 1D array. In 1D array, you provided the size of the array. Instead, here you will mention the number of rows and number of columns. Okay, you will just put number of rows and number of columns. Okay, that means a simple way can be int a array name 2 and 2. Correct? So this is your matrix with 2 rows and 2 columns. Okay. So now similarly, how will you access these values? Okay. 2 rows and 2 columns, right? You can say this will be 0 and 1, 0 and 1. Okay. So here, suppose this is your first element, 1, 2, 3, 4. These are the values in your matrix, which is of 2 by 2. 2 rows are there and 2 columns are there, right? So to access the value, you can say the indexes will be how you can evaluate the same thing. 0, 1, 0, 1. You can say A 0, 0, A 0 and 1. Okay, then A 1 and 0, and here A 1 and 1. Okay, see. So if you want to access a value, A means first value will be your 1 here, correct? If you want to access value A 1 and 0, the value we can access is 3. Is it clear, Abaswa? Then think about it and let me know. These are the locations. You can see a two-dimensional array like a table. Okay, in table we have rows and we have columns, and the indices will go like this. So you can say in A, I and J. I for rows and J for the index of columns. So just see this part once and think about it and let me know. Ma'am, আৰু এবাৰ বুজাই দিয়কচোন। Okay, ঠিক আছে। So single dimensional array to বুজি পাইছা? What's the syntax? Data type, array name, and array size. 1D array. So now we are checking 2D array. 2D means what? You can say like x-axis and y-axis, right? It's a two-dimensional thing. Okay, if single dimension is just one line. Okay, there is no dimension, there is only x-axis. So here it's a 2D. 2D means there will be two values. You can say x-axis and y-axis. Okay, now if you have 3D, then there will be a z-axis too. I guess you guys know this type of concept, three-dimensional thing, two-dimensional thing and all, right? So this is a 2D array. So in 2D array, obviously there will be one row and one column. Okay, so you can represent a two-dimensional array with the help of a table which will have row values and the column values. Okay, so in syntax to initialize it will be like this. Data type, just like your normal array. Then array name should be there. Then instead of the size of the array, here you will mention the number of rows and the number of columns. So if I'm saying there is an array of type int and the array name is A and the size of the array is 2 by 2. So you can also find the size of an array from the row and column. So if I'm saying the row is 2 and column is 2, so what will be the size of that array? Equal to row into column, right? So it will be 2 by 2 equal to 4. Correct? That means there will be 4 values arranged in a row and column. Correct? So here, okay, I can write different values 20, 30, 40. Okay. So suppose in this array there are 4 values 10, 20, 30 and 40. So just like we use index in case of 1D array, so same concept we will here as well. So this one is also like randomly accessed. You can access any element in the matrix by providing the row and the column value. Okay, so let me show you how we can initialize. This is just initialization, right? You just initialized a matrix, an array, two-dimensional array A, and the size is 4 because row is 2 and column is 2. Then you can find the size of the array 4. That means there should be 4 values. Okay, so this one, like we did in declaration and initialization, you can use the same way. Okay, you can just write int A 2 by 2, and that means there will be 4 values. So you will write like 10, 20, then 30 and 40. Okay, this is how you are going to initialize the value of a matrix. Okay, so this is your first row and this is your row 2. Okay, the values will be arranged like this way: 10, 20 and 30 and 40. Okay, so whenever you write initialize like this, okay, even if you just directly write the values and don't give the brackets, still it's fine. If you write like 10, 20, 30, 40, still it's the correct way. Both are correct way. But the better practice is this: you give bracket just to show the distinction between row 1 and row 2. Okay, both way is correct. Either you can just distinguish the row 1 values 10 and 20, then for the second row 30 and 40, or you can just directly write this way. Both are correct. Okay, then another way you can also write int A. Don't mention the first row, but you are mentioning column 3. 10, 20, 30, 40. This is also correct. Okay. You are not specifying the row value here, but you are specifying the second one. It is valid, then it is also valid, like this format: 10, 20, 30, and 40. Okay, this is also valid. But it will be invalid if you do not specify the column value. Okay, if you write like A, 2 and 2, and here are the values 10, 20, 30, 40, this will give you an error. This is not accepted. You can leave the row value empty, it's fine, but you cannot leave the second dimension empty. You have to provide the column value. Okay. So this is invalid. This is also invalid. Whatever value you put doesn't matter. You have to mention the second. Is it clear?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, clear.
So for the two-dimensional array, there will be two things in mind. Keep two things in mind. There is row value and column value. There is no direct size of the array. You can calculate the size of that two-dimensional array by checking the row and value numbers. If you can see it's 2 and 2, then size will be 2 by 2. If I say int A, 3 and 4, what will be the size of this array? Size কিমান হ'ব এইটো?
Twelve, ma'am.
Yes,
12,
12.
ma'am.
So for this particular array, your values, like there will be 3 rows, 1, 0, 1 and 2, and there will be 4 columns, 1, 2, 3 and 4. 0, 1, 2, 3. Okay, index will always start from 0. Remember that. This is common for any array. Okay, index will always start from 0. So this is your
Ma'am,
3 by 4 matrix. Yes.
ma'am. Then at the starting where you have started that initialization part,
Mm.
there you have written row 1 and row 2.
Yes.
Then it will be row 0 and row 1. No?
Yes. Which one?
Ma'am, starting that one. Ma'am, int
This
A,
one?
2 and 2. This
Oh
one.
no, here
Int
I'm not initializing it. Here I'm initializing all the values. Here I'm just mentioning. This is not you are accessing. This is not access. This is your declaration.
Okay. Ma'am, then also that will be row 0 and row 1. No?
Yes. No, 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 no. This is declaring. After you declare and initialize the value, that means once you have this value, then only you can access this. If you want to access, you don't need to write the int part. You can just say 2 by 2. Then it will give you the value 40.
Okay, ma'am.
But it will not give you 40. You know why? I'm saying this won't give you 40 value. See, your index will start from 0 and 1, 0 and 1. So if your row value is 2 and column value is 2, and if you are trying to access the last value, then it will be n minus 1 and simply n minus 1. That means to access the last value, your access will be 1 and 1. Then only it will give you 40. 2 is to just size. If you want to access the value, it will always start from 0 and 1. See here, 20, 10, 20, 30, 40. So index for 10 is A00. Index for 20 is 01. For 30, 10. And for 40, it's 11. Got the difference now? This is not
Yes, ma'am.
giving you the last value. Here you are initializing the matrix that it will contain 2 rows and 2 columns. If you want to access the value, you have to provide the index value or the number of rows and columns. Again, I'm saying it will start from 0 and 1. So A22 is not your last element.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay, it is A11. A11 is your 40. A22 is not equivalent to 40 because there is nothing like that. But if your matrix is A33, then it will have this one. So for a 3 by 3 matrix, what will happen? There will be another one, A0, this one 2, A1, this one will be 2, and there will be another row, A2, 0, A2, 1, and A2 and 2. Got it? And maybe you have a value like 50 and 60, then 70, 80 and 90. Then this A22 will return you number 90. Okay. This is just your initialization part. So initially, if you have declared a matrix with 2 by 2 and values are like this, that means you have just created a matrix or table with 2 rows, number of row 2 and number of columns is 2. So it's a 2 by 2 matrix and size will be 4. That means there will be 4 values. Then if you access the values, then it will always start from 0 and 0. Is it clear now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So this is for the 2D array. Okay. Just let me show you for the 3D array, but we are not going to see any programs for 3D array. Okay. The scope is up to 2D array only. So if you want to initialize 3D array, that means there will be a 3 part. You can say a int a 2, 2 and 2. Okay. Just like I said, there will be x, y and z. Okay, but the thing is we cannot just directly show the z part. I cannot draw it because everything is 2D here. I cannot draw the third part, so you just have to know that this one will be for 1 dimension, this is 2nd dimension, and this is the 3rd dimension. Okay, so if you want to store any values, means initialize the value of a 3D array, then you can just see in, okay, I can just show it here directly, no need to write again. So same way, either you can just write all the numbers together, that means how many values should be there, 2 into 2 into 2. How many values? 8,
8,
right?
ma'am.
So you can directly write 8 values, or better, always write like 10, 20, then 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 7, 8, done, right? Or you can just directly put all the values together up to 8 values. Okay. So we will not talk about the 3D array. I'm just showing how you can initialize it. Okay. We will just stick to the 2D array. Okay. So two-dimensional array is mainly used for your matrix. Okay. For matrix summation of two matrix, then subtraction of two matrices, multiplication, all. Okay. And then there can be like other uses, like if you want to store two values together. Okay, suppose you want to store temperature of two cities. Okay, that means if you want to just store two values together, then you can use this type of matrix. Okay, it's a very simple program. Let's see the matrix addition one. Okay. Matrices, two matrices addition. Okay, we have seen how we can add two numbers, right? You already know the program to add two numbers. Here we will see how we can add the value of two matrices with the help of an 2D array. Okay, so you can write it's simple. Then in main remain same for all programs. Then okay, now it's up to you if you what type of matrix you want. It can be real valued like double, int, float, anything. Okay, for simplicity I'm just keeping it int type. Okay, so I'm saying it's a addition of two matrices. So how many variables you need? The simple way you can think, you want to add two numbers, how many variables you will need? The concept will remain same. For addition of two numbers, how many variables you will need? In general way, two. Yeah, minimum two, but you can use one extra for the sum part, right? To store the result, correct? Two is enough, but yeah, for if you use matrix, because in the sum part you can just write a plus b, right? That's why two. But again, for simplicity, I'm saying just take three. Okay, so here I'm taking two matrices. Suppose A of size 2, 2, B of size 2 and 2, and there will be a sum of matrix. Okay, or addition of matrix 2 by 2. Okay, at this part you have to know a little bit of matrix maths, because see, for addition of two matrices you have to make sure the number of rows and columns are same. Okay, then only whatever resultant matrix you will get, that should be of same size. Correct? খিনি মনত আছে mathsৰ চবৰে? Yes, no? Suppose? Okay, good. Okay, so here are our variables in the form of array. Okay, now just think about the logic. When you wanted to add n numbers, you could have just used single for loop, right? Then whatever number you keep putting or user will input, you can just add that number with the help of single loop. Okay, so in case of matrix, since it's a two-dimensional, you can simply use nested for loops, correct? So one for loop will allow you to store the values of the rows, and the second for loop will allow you to store the value of the column. Okay, so you can just take the input from users with the help of nested for loops. Okay, so first you can just ask the user about the size, or you can directly print it. Okay, see here you have already specified the size that it will be 2 by 2 and 2 by 2. Then in another program, maybe you can ask the user what should be the size, and user will define the size, right? And accordingly, rest of the things will be same. But here I am already mentioning that the size of the matrix, both matrices will be 2 by 2. Okay, obviously for addition, both should be have the same size, same number of rows and same number of columns. So you can just ask enter values of first matrix. This is just to display purpose. Okay, so to take the input, you can just start for. Okay, you can also initialize in I and j. Why? Because we need the indices value for matrix, right? For row it's I, for column it's j. You can interchange the values, doesn't matter what name you want. You can use ij, a, b, anything, it's up to you. So here I can write I equal to 0 and I less than 2 plus I. Okay, next, this is for your row. Okay, next will be for j equal to 0, j less than 2 and plus j. Okay, this one will be for your column value. Okay, so now you can simply just write the values. Okay, printf, you can ask the user enter values. You can write, doesn't matter, you can just write %d and %d. Why %d? Why %d?
ভ্যালু
Huh?
দুটা ভ্যালু কাৰণে
Yes, data value kana I and j, and both are integer type. That's why %d and %d. So if you want to show it like, suppose matrix A, right? A, %d and %d. Okay. So here you will write I plus 1 and j plus 1. Okay. And then you will store the value %d and %a, I and j. Okay, just look at this portion once. You have initialized a matrix which is of size 2. So row 2 and column 2. So for I is you are using for row value. So range will be 0 to less than 1. So 0 and 1. And for J also column is also less than 2. So your index start from 0 and 1. Okay. Now here you are storing the value. Here I am written A %D %D. What's the purpose of this? Simply this one will print your value, maybe enter value of A and A equal to this value. So first value it will display like this only. Okay, so why I have written 1 1 here? Your matrix will start from 0 and here I am written I plus 1. So your I value will be 1. So here value will be 1 and 1. Okay. See, internally matrix index starts from 0. Correct? But in normal time, we just say first value, second value and third value. So from A11, I can say this is the first value of the matrix. Okay, but internally logically it starts from 0. That's why here I have written I plus 1 and j plus 1 so that the value become 1 and 1. So whatever value you put here, maybe 10, so it will be displayed like this. Next you want to add the second value, then it will again show enter value A. Next time it will be 1 and 2. Okay, then whatever value you want to put like this. So this is for display purpose. Okay, just to show this part. Okay, so this is for display part only. So main thing is happening here only. Whatever input user is putting, it will be stored in this matrix A, I and J. Okay, now you want to add this 2, right? Okay, this meeting is going to end in 5 minutes. Okay, let's do one thing. I can just start this matrix part in the lab class. Okay, I'll show the whole program logic and show you how to run it and how it will look like. Okay, but the basic part is clear to you guys, right? Okay, it will be clear, more clear when we'll start the lab part. Okay, so I'll just stop sharing here. We will continue in the lab class, which will start from 2. Correct. So let me take attendance, switch on your videos. Okay, I remember yesterday you guys asked me to switch on my videos too. So, okay, I can do that. Let's see. Okay, now all of you, your videos too. Take attendance. প্ৰাঞ্জলে তো কেতিয়াও নোৱাৰে বাৰু webcam নাই বুলি কৈছা rest of you switch on your videos
Present, ma'am.
So অকল 26, it's always like 26. What about the rest? মেঘনা নাথাকে আৰু কেইটামান নাথাকে ক্লাছত. Okay, so বুজি পাইছা সবে array part, single array, 1D array, 2D array. যদি confusion থাকে, lab ক্লাছত কবা, we can discuss about it. Okay?
Okay, ma'am.
বাকি এটা কি হ'ল? সুকন্যা
Okay,
ঘোষ,
ma'am.
মনদীপ, প্ৰাঞ্জল নৰা, লিৰেন, বটবী, দাদী, বিশাল, প্ৰসম্ভ, প্ৰীতম, switch on your videos. স্নেহাশী চৰকাৰ কিবা প্ৰব্লেম হৈছে, এৰৰ দেখুৱাই আছে. ভিডিঅ' অন নকৰিলে মই এটেণ্ডেঞ্চ নিদিওঁ দেই.
Ma'am, robo কৰি আছো.
I can't switch on because there are some issues. Okay. Okay, তেনে নাই পৰা কৰিলে আৰু. Okay,
Ma'am, দেখিছেনে আপুনি?
দেখি আছে, বহুতকে দেখি আছে. Okay, thank you everyone. We'll see you in next class, okay?
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.